Level 1, the discovery. You see a number first. Not a chart, not a strategy, just a number. Someone in a comment section wrote that they made $300 in a single afternoon, and you stopped scrolling. You read it twice. Then you read the replies. Most people were calling him a liar. You weren't so sure. That was a Friday. By Sunday, you had watched 9 videos and opened a demo account with $10,000 of fake money. You had a notepad with 4 words written down: pip, spread, leverage, lot size. You didn't fully understand any of them, but writing them down made them feel real. You place your first trade. USD, because someone said it was the most liquid pair and you liked how that sounded. You press buy. The number moves up, then back, then up again. You watch it the way you'd watch something fragile near the edge of a table. You close it at $1.60 profit. Fake money, but your hands were slightly warm the whole time. You find a strategy posted on a forum. The guy claims he turned $2,000 into $38,000 in 7 months. He has screenshots. You save them. You believe him completely. You deposit $200. Real money. The demo account immediately feels like something that happened in a different room. Your first live trade lasts 11 minutes. You buy off a pattern you recognize from a video. Price drops immediately. You hold because the video said to hold. It drops further. You close it down $26 and sit very still. Then you think, wrong session, that's all it was. You'll be more careful next time. That thought is going to stay with you longer than it should. Level 2, the grind. You've lost $130 and you've decided the problem is that you haven't learned enough yet. This is the belief that keeps people here, not greed, not ego. The belief that the answer is written down somewhere and you just haven't found the right page. You go back to basics. Forums, free courses, a paid course for $67 from someone with a calm voice and a whiteboard. You learn about risk management, 1 to 2% per trade. You build a new plan, 6 rules written in a notes app. You follow the rules for 6 days. On the 7th, you see a setup that isn't in the rules, but it looks so clean you go in anyway at 3 times your normal size. You lose it in 22 minutes. You don't update the notes app. The cycle runs, discipline, then impulse, then loss, then back to discipline. You decide the problem is your mindset. You've read that trading is 80% psychology. You start journaling every trade. It helps sometimes. Mostly it just documents the same mistakes in different colors. You're not losing because of your mindset. You're losing because the patterns you're trading don't have a real edge. You can be completely calm and completely wrong at the same time. But no one in these forums is going to tell you that. They're too busy selling the next solution to the last problem. You join a signal group. 4,000 members. Someone posts a trade idea every morning. You follow the calls without fully understanding why that person's read should be better than yours. It feels like structure, and structure feels like safety. You spend 7 months here. Net, across all your deposits, you're down roughly $600. You tell yourself you're still learning. You are, just not what you think. Something happens near the end of month 8. You take a loss on a trade that followed the signal exactly. You sit there and think, I didn't actually know why I took that. I just took it because someone else said to. For the first time, that bothers you in a specific way it didn't before. You don't act on it yet, but you don't forget it. Level 3, the edge. Around month 10, you stop looking for the answer and start looking at the price. Just the price, moving, making shapes. You sit with charts for long stretches without placing anything. You're not looking for a signal. You're watching what the market actually does, not what you want it to do. Where does it stall before a move? Where does it push through a level that should have held? You notice things you couldn't see before because you were always trying to confirm something you already believed. You build something small. 3 conditions that all have to be true at the same time. A specific session window, 2 pairs only, a defined stop. You scroll back through 5 months of charts manually, marking every setup that would have qualified, logging the outcome. It takes 2 weeks. The results aren't spectacular. Win rate around 53%, reward to risk around 1.4. Nobody's making a YouTube video about those numbers, but they're real. That's new. First month trading the framework, you finish up 5.2%. 11 trades, you followed the rules on 9 of them. The 2 you didn't follow both lost, you sit with that. Not with the profit, with the 2 trades. The months after that, up 3, down 2, up 6. This is what it actually looks like. Quieter than you imagined. More like a job than a secret. You close the signal group one evening without ceremony. The noise had stopped being useful somewhere along the way, and you hadn't noticed until now. Or your account is at $1,200. Real gains documented. You know what your system does in a trending market versus a ranging one. You know the maximum consecutive losses it has historically produced, and you know you can survive that run without blowing the account. You feel for the first time like you're not guessing. Level 4, scaling. 6 months of consistency, not 6 months of winning. 6 months of trading the same way whether the week is green or red. One losing streak in March that went 8 days. You pulled every trade, found 2 entries that were slightly off your own rules, adjusted, moved forward. The framework held. You add capital, $3,500 total. A 2% gain used to be $24. Now it's $70. The losses feel different too. You take a $90 loss on a valid trade and something in your chest tightens. Not panic. You knew the trade was right, but something tightens anyway. You don't open another position. That's the growth, not the winning. That specific moment of sitting with a loss and doing nothing is the growth. You start talking to 2 other traders from a small private group, people at a similar level. You share journals, not signals. You talk about execution, not predictions. Someone writes, I got stopped out Wednesday because I entered before the level confirmed. I should have waited for the second touch. Everyone reads it and moves on. Nobody is performing. Nobody is selling anything. You realize that almost everything you consumed in year 1 was a product. The screenshots, the highlight reels, the 2,000 into 38,000. You were the customer the whole time. You don't feel angry. You just understand it now, the way you understand a magic trick after you've seen how it works. By month 16 of consistent trading, you're managing $6,000. 6.4% that month. That's $384 from a screen in your apartment. Part of you keeps waiting for the floor to give way. It doesn't. You start thinking about 6 figures, not as a fantasy, as a math problem. What changes at 100,000? Does the psychology shift when a single trade is a $5,000 position? You start running numbers. This is the first time you've ever planned from evidence instead of hope. It feels completely different. Level 5, the professional. You're managing $55,000. Some yours, some from 3 people who watched your monthly results for 4 months and asked if you'd trade their capital. Clear terms, a percentage split on profits. A maximum drawdown before you stop and report. Monthly statements, your life is reorganized around the market. You wake up early. You stop drinking at night after tracking 3 months of trade quality against the mornings after, and the entries were consistently late or sized wrong. You sleep 7.5 hours minimum because you track that too. You don't explain what you do anymore. You tried once at a dinner. The person nodded and asked if it was anything like crypto. You said sort of and changed the subject. That is the loneliness of it. Not the hours, not the pressure. The translation problem. The conversation you actually want to have doesn't exist in most rooms. You have bad months. A stretch in April where the market went sideways for 3 weeks and you took 5 trades total. 2 winners, 2 losers, 1 break even, net slightly negative. One of your capital providers called. You walked them through every non-trade, every decision not to enter, the reasoning they stayed. But the call made something clear that you'd been half avoiding. You carry their money the way you'd carry something borrowed and irreplaceable. That weight doesn't get lighter. Just get used to the shape of it. There are days where nothing sets up and you don't trade. You watch, you wait, you close the platform and do something else. 3, 4 days in a row sometimes. People who haven't done this think trading means constant action. It mostly means waiting. You're good at waiting now. That took longer to build than the strategy did. Level 6, the operator. You managed $240,000 across 7 investors. It came through introductions, a lawyer whose client asked about managed accounts, a former colleague who had watched your results for a year before saying anything. That's how capital finds you at this level. Not through ads. Through people who have already decided to trust someone near you. You have systems that aren't trading systems. A monthly report template. A drawdown protocol. A compliance folder. You manage $240,000 in open positions before midday, and none of it feels like money anymore. It dissociated around the 100,000 mark. Now you feel the percentage, the exposure, the relationship between this position and the total book. If you still felt the raw dollar amount on every trade, you couldn't function. The dissociation is not a problem. It's a requirement. You have one friend who works at a fund running equities. Talk for 2 hours every couple of months. Those conversations are the only ones where you don't have to translate everything. You leave them feeling less alone in a way you can't explain to anyone who isn't in it. You're not unhappy. That matters to say clearly. But you know what the work costs and you've done the calculation and stayed. That's a choice. You know it's a choice. Level 7, the architect. 6 people in the operation now, a junior analyst. A risk manager you hired from a small prop firm after watching how he handled a losing week during his trial. A developer, an operations manager, an accountant. Someone who manages the relationship side with your 10 capital partners. You manage $2.8 million. You don't place most of the trades anymore. You built the rules. You define the conditions. Your risk manager executes. You oversee. You are the layer above the decisions, not the person making each one. Trusting that took 4 months. The first month you stepped back. You reviewed every trade the same evening, not end of week. That evening, always clean. Better than yours had been, honestly. You didn't know what to do with that. You sat with it for 2 weeks and then moved your reviews to end of day, then end of week, flagged exceptions only. One Wednesday in October, 3 months in, your risk manager called at midday. A setup that was technically valid but outside the normal session window. He wanted your read. You talked through it for 8 minutes. You said no. He agreed. The market moved in the direction the trade would have gone. You sat with that. Not with regret. The point was never the individual trade. The point was the decision process. You were both settled with the outcome. That was the moment you knew the structure worked. Your investors ask different questions now. Drawdown duration, not just depth. The Sharpe ratio across different market conditions. Succession planning. You have a written answer for that last one. You didn't used to. Some evenings after everyone is gone, you open a Euro to Wealth USD chart and watch it for a while. Not to trade, not to analyze. Just to sit with it. Then you close it and go home. Level 8, the apex. 2:15 on a Wednesday afternoon. Your team is running the floor. You came in for one investor meeting and a decision on a new framework condition. Both done before noon. You'll be home by 4:30. You manage $14 million in client capital. You stop saying that number out loud somewhere around the 10 million mark. What it means now is that the business pays 6 salaries, covers its costs, and still returns enough to keep serious investors in the room. It's infrastructure. That's all it is. You understand things about how price moves that you can't fully explain to most people. Not because the knowledge is secret. All of it is technically available. But it requires years of watching the same kinds of setups fail in different ways before the pattern means something you can actually use. You know this the way you know how to balance on a bicycle. You cannot fully explain it. You just do it. The market is not a code. It is a continuous aggregate of every participant acting on incomplete information at the same time. Your edge is not that you know something they don't. Your edge is that you are wrong in a more structured way than most of them. You find that genuinely funny now. You eat lunch alone most days, by preference. The hour between 12 and 1 is when you think most clearly. You've protected it. You're thinking about what comes next. A larger fund. Licensing the system to a small number of operators who meet a specific standard. Writing something down, not for publication, just to have the shape of it on paper from the beginning. You haven't decided, you're in no rush. You're heading to the elevator when your analyst sends a message. 8 months in. Good instincts, still working on patience. He tracked a setup through the session this morning, documented the logic, then didn't take it because the entry window closed before all 3 conditions were met. He wants to know if he should have taken it early. You type back, no. The rules exist for the trades you don't take, not the ones you do. Pull the last 50 setups where one condition was missing and look at the full outcome set. Not the ones that worked. All of them. You pocket the phone, the elevator opens. In a forum right now, someone just posted a screenshot of $40 made on a demo account. They've written, I think I finally get it. The replies are coming in fast. Someone asking what broker. Someone saying they've been doing this for 3 years and keep at it. Someone who knows exactly what's coming saying nothing. They'll deposit real money this week, $200. They think the hard part is finding the right strategy. They don't know yet what the actual question is, but they'll get there. The question always finds them eventually.